All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, let's do a little bit of an Arnold Classic preview here. One physique update that I found very impressive from an athlete that is going to be competing in the Arnold Classic just in 9 weeks now. It's crazy how quickly this Arnold has come up after the Olympia and after this year's Arnold. But Brett Wilkin, one of the athletes competing at the Arnold Classic, posted this physique update. He says a little 9-week out sneak preview as things are moving very fast right now. All I'm going to say is if you're not planning on going to the Arnold in Columbus, Ohio on March 4th and 5th, you're going to be missing out on one hell of a show, I can guarantee that. So Brett generated a lot of conversation after finishing second to Hunter Labrada at the 2021 Chicago Pro. And while this Arnold Classic lineup is a really impressive list of competitors, accomplished competitors, there's a lot of wild cards in that lineup, and I think Brett is one of them. And the reason why I say wild card is because it's a little bit harder to make a prediction for a top 6 placing or a win for a guy that hasn't won any pro shows as an open bodybuilder yet. But Brett, I think, is every bit as dangerous as most of the bodybuilders on this lineup, but it's really just going to be a matter of actually proving himself as an open pro. And a lot of people felt he did that in Chicago, even though he didn't pick up the win. A lot of people arguing he could have beat Hunter Labrada at that show. And Hunter, of course, went on to go and place 4th at this year's Olympia. So I think as we get closer to the Arnold Classic and we're talking about some of these bigger names, because there are some big names in there. There's 3 former Arnold Classic champions and a former Mr. Olympia in there. Brandon Curry. You got Brandon, William Bonac, Cedric McMillan. These are all Arnold Classic champs. So going into the show, I feel like a lot of the conversation is going to be around these bigger names. But there's guys in there like Brett Wilkin that I think have fantastic physiques, bring next level conditioning. I mean, his conditioning in Chicago was fantastic. And Brett, just another young up-and-comer that I think is going to be making his way even further onto everybody's radar. And I think the Arnold Classic could be a show where I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the first call out there too. Now, next up in the news, let's talk about Ronnie Coleman, because Ronnie Coleman has been the talk of the bodybuilding industry over the past couple days, as he recently said on his podcast that he is back to weighing 285 pounds. Now, this has obviously come as a bit of a surprise to most people that have been following Ronnie, because of the fact that Ronnie has been wheelchair bound and virtually unable to walk unassisted for several years now because of all the injuries and surgeries that he had as a result of his, very long and very successful bodybuilding career and his very hardcore training style. So because of the immobility issues and the fact that he was in a wheelchair for so long, a lot of his body was atrophied. And we know, from seeing him at trade shows and seeing him, just on Instagram, that he had certainly downsized. In fact, I would say that downsized would be an understatement. So 285 pounds, I think, is a pretty surprising amount of weight gain. And he says that the reason for it, he attributes it mostly to the stem cell treatments that he's been having, and the fact that, I guess because of the stem cell treatments, he hasn't had to have had so many surgeries back to back, and that was one of the things that was holding him back from training consistently, was the constant recovery from surgery after surgery and the proximity of all those surgeries. They were so close together, he really never had time to get back on his feet and get back to like a full normal training routine. And he says, after those surgeries, he was weighing 255, so he's gained about 30 pounds to get up to 285, and he looks pretty big. I'm not gonna lie, on the podcast, the video that you can see of Ronnie Coleman, he looks pretty big in that video. Now, the recent videos that he's posted on social media, I don't know if these videos are 285-pound Ronnie Coleman or not, if these are older training videos or more recent training videos, because to me, my honest opinion is in these recent training videos, he doesn't look 285 to me. Because you got to think about the fact that a lot of that size and a lot of that weight would have to be in the upper body, because he acknowledged this in the podcast too, is that his legs were the most atrophied part of his body. He really didn't use them. So the upper body, I would think, would be the heaviest and most well-muscled part. And looking at some of these recent videos, I'm just not seeing a 285-pound upper body. So maybe he hasn't yet shared a physique update of him at 285, because like I said, in this video, if you go back to the podcast, he actually does look pretty big in that video. His arms look big. He looks vascular, and he looks healthier. He looks bigger and healthier than normal, from what you can see in that podcast, of course, from the chest up. But yeah, to me, most of the training videos that I've seen from him recently look about the same. But 30 pounds of weight gain is pretty significant, and a lot of people are questioning, why would he even bother doing this? He's 57 years old. He's more than a decade now into his retirement from professional bodybuilding. He's got nothing left to prove in terms of he's won 8 Olympias. He's arguably the greatest bodybuilder to ever live. And in my opinion, he is the greatest bodybuilder of all time. I don't think it gets much better than Ronnie Coleman, much freakier, much bigger. Obviously, nobody has won more titles. I think Ronnie Coleman is the GOAT. So what does he have left to prove? Why would he bother risking his health at 285 at age 57? Because obviously, as you age, that amount of weight is going to put additional stress on your heart. It's going to be additional stress on your body, really all around, your joints and everything at that age. Nearly 300 pounds in your late 50s is a lot of weight. And you got to take into consideration, I mean, we had the passing of Sean Roden at 46. He was maintaining a pretty bodybuilder-esque physique into his late 40s. Take into consideration, all the bodybuilder passings that we've had this past year. And a lot of people would wonder, why bother for Ronnie Coleman to even want to gain size? And he did say in the podcast that he attributes a lot of the weight gain to the fact that he's, able to get on a more consistent workout schedule. He's working out 6 days a week for about an hour to an hour, half a day, something he wasn't able to do before in between all those surgeries. So a lot of that weight gain, maybe it wasn't necessarily him trying to gain weight, but just the fact that he was able to get on a more consistent workout routine, a workout regime. And that's kind of my interpretation of what he's saying here. I think a lot of people looked at this and said, Ronnie is saying that he's bulking. He's trying to put on weight. He's trying to pack on a ton of weight. I looked at it more as now that he's got a more consistent workout routine, his body has responded by putting on muscle and gaining weight. I don't think he's actively trying to get bigger, but I think, when you have genetics like Ronnie Coleman, the greatest bodybuilder of all time, once you get back to a normal training routine and you don't have the stress and the recovery of all these surgeries, just naturally, and I say that with air quotes, he's going to put on some muscle. So I don't think he's actively trying to get bigger per se. He's just probably trying to get more consistent with working out. And he's able to do that now that he's in less pain and had the stem cell treatments and not as many surgeries. But at the same time, I also would say I don't think anybody would care one bit if Ronnie Coleman stopped working out tomorrow and wanted to go down to below 200 pounds. I don't think anybody would knock him for that at all. If he said, hey, I want to be healthy, I want to be around for a long time, I don't want to carry around all this excess weight, I don't think one person would have a negative thing to say if Ronnie wanted to go down to 185. But at the end of the day, I'm just happy to see that he's healthy. It looks like he's in a lot less pain, and it looks like he's able to train, which is what he loves doing. So you got to be happy that he's still around, he's still able to do what he loves, and he's essentially a little bit more pain-free. Now, speaking of former Mr. Olympia physique updates, we've got an update from Phil Heath, the final physique update of 2021 for Phil Heath. And still, the question remains, will we ever see Phil Heath step on stage again? Will we see him compete again? Is this the end of the Phil Heath era, or is he just waiting for the opportunity to compete at something like Athleticon? Now, to me, Phil looks really good here. I still think Phil, he looks to be downsized. Of course, he told us earlier in the year that he was hospitalized because of the virus. He lost a bunch of weight. He got down to like 220 in the hospital, and he's been in the process of putting some size back on. To me, Phil looks great here still, and while he does to me still look downsized, he still looks like he could be big enough to compete again if he wanted to. But like I said with Ronnie, I mean, I'm just happy to see both these guys, Phil and Ronnie, that they're happy, they're doing what they enjoy, but more importantly, that they're healthy and they're able to do what they enjoy because they are healthy, and that is the most important part. So whether Phil comes back or not, it's really secondary to whether or not Phil is healthy and around for a long time. Same with Ronnie Coleman, although I don't think a comeback is on the horizon. I just think, we want to see both these guys around for a very long time. So that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. Just kind of a quick one today. It is New Year's Eve. I hope you guys have a great and safe New Year's Eve. Make sure you don't drink and drive. I want to see you guys get home and be around for 2022. So I hope you guys have had a great holiday season. I hope you guys have a great holiday tonight, a great New Year's Eve tonight. Stay safe, stay healthy. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you leave a like on the video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.